Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto, Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the United States of America. Good morning to the entire world receiving our signals via the magic of the internet, formerly known as the ARPANET. Created by whom? Created by we the people. We the people. Now controlled by billionaires. Now being used by billionaires to change our mental psyche, to indoctrinate us on fallacies, something that we've got to mitigate, something we've got to get smart about. And now with TikTok, the last bastion of independent social media being controlled by yet another American billionaire or a group of American billionaires, it is something to watch. Anyway, without further ado, get to welcome the studio, El Señor Jacques Van Beber and Mayana are in the house. How you guys doing this morning?
We're good, and we're in the house.
Good morning, Mayana.
Good morning.
Right.
Hey, Jack.
Hey.
It's like, hey, Jack. Talk.
Yeah, we're trying to get our banter going.
Talk to me, my brother. Talk to me. Well, you know something? It works every day because the banter is not automatic. It is natural, and that's what I love about what we do. We don't have to do anything any other way but natural. Anyway, what's up?
Yeah, no pretending.
Anyway, yeah,
no pretense. No pretense. I like that. No pretending. No pretense. Anyway, you wrote something. What did you write, dear brother Jack?
Well, I wrote a little piece. It's kind of Halloweenish, but it's also very serious because it kind of compares vampires to the corporate elite oligarchs. So here goes. Imagine that a vampire uses you as its host. He comes to you in the night to feed, draining you of your blood, leaving you weak and vulnerable. He doesn't feed on you every night, for he has many hosts. The body recovers in time, but he becomes greedy and gluttonous and starts to feed more and more each visit, leaving you weaker and weaker and less able to resist his feeding, gradually weakening you until you succumb to the lack of blood coursing through your veins, and you perish. Remember, he has many hosts, and they too eventually perish, so he must constantly find new hosts to feed his insatiable hunger. Another vampirish trait is the indoctrination of a host, which he feeds on once to cast a spell, turning the host into a vampire to serve him and feed on multiple victims to add to their legions. Now, the stronger vampires feed on the weaker indoctrinated vampires, and the stronger vampire no longer has to search for fresh blood because the vampires he has indoctrinated and empowered bring him the lifeblood of the many host victims that they are feeding on. See how this works? Now, let's turn blood into money. And imagine the vampires as the corporate industrial oligarchs, mostly big oil, banking, real estate investment, big pharma, corporate healthcare, corporate insurance, the auto industry, corporate agriculture, aviation, communications, and corporate media. And don't forget the military contractors of the military-industrial complex that Republican President Dwight D. Eisenhower warned the citizens about 65 years ago in 1960. I was 2. The citizens did not heed the warning. Instead, the citizens have become seduced by consumption, gluttony, convenience, sloth, luxury, lust, and an increasing greed and avarice. Avarice meaning having more money than you could ever use in 1 or 12 lifetimes. The middle class is now the host that the corporate vampires have sank their fangs into, sucking out their wealth like blood through their mortgages, utilities, and insurance premiums. Taxes, inflation, and real estate investment scams that drive up the cost of housing and then forces the working poor out of the housing market and into the ever-increasing rental market, stealing their wealth in hopes of ever owning their homes. America, look at what you've become, a nation whose citizens are turned into slaves to the system of exploitation, not freedom. This is all about the unfair distribution of wealth that the Reagan era sanctified in the use of neoliberal economic policy. You know, and I've always wondered why they call it neoliberal. You know, it's kind of like to smear the liberals with this policy.
It is a shame, but I mean, I love that, and let me tell you why I love that, right? Because in that article, what you're talking about as well is a thing called abstraction. I like what you talk about, the abstraction of the vampire. The vampire used to drink all the blood, and he had to go hunting, and the ones that he hunt died away, etc., he had to keep going and do more. Well, now he just abstracts it. He has a steady supply. That small and smaller middle class does all the dirty work. They're the ones that fight. They're the ones that go out there and make things happen. And all he has to do is have them. And they do all the dirty work for him. Same thing that occurs with imperialism around the world. America lives, the people in America are nice people, great people, but they don't know what's being done in their name. They don't know that the vampire bit us. And then we do all the dirty work overseas. And then we look like we have a marvelous life over here. So the dirty work isn't seen by the masses. I mean, there's a lot that I could attach to that vampire an analogy that you used there, brother. Because you know what?
Writing.
Yeah, that exactly. There's a lot of analogy to that. Abstraction is a perfect thing, man, because it allows evil to go on and on and on. And as long as you don't see where the evil is being done, you can look like you're nice, sweet, and have everything going on. That's a good piece, real good piece, Jack. Anyhow, anything else, guys?
I was just saying that people don't know. And I think that the masses now pretty much know. It's just the fact that, you know, media is being taken over so much that we think they don't know because we're not getting the story of what's happening with the people on the ground. But I think that a lot of people are getting together and are actually doing things.
I agree with you with 100% in this respect. You have that we're approaching 3.5% of the people that are actively rebelling against what's occurring. And in the world of, I don't want to use the word revolutions because people like to think of it as a violent thing, but in a world of change, once you get 3.5% of the population aware, you start to see actual change. And that is what's really happening. So, they are becoming aware. And there's something else, Mayana. You remember this morning you were talking about what's going on with the books, right? You're talking about what you read about the Texas controlling the book market, 10 Republicans, 5 Democrats.
I actually heard it on Arnie Artisan that came on just before, and I was thinking it was so interesting as I was driving over here.
And it is, because the thing is, and this even maps into what Jack was talking about. You have to, when I talk about people not knowing, and you say, yeah, well, a lot of people know, but they don't know that it's wrong, or they don't know what it really means. It's like, let's just look at how a lot of folks think about the immigrants. I mean, there are a lot of Democrats as well that for a while was on the same bandwagon with Trump as far as get them brown people out, you know, and I mean, let's be frank. There are a lot of people who purport themselves to be progressives who, you know, they're in line and they hear somebody speaking a different language, or they look not American or whatever. And, you know, that feeling isn't a party line feeling necessarily. And what they don't realize is Well, why are those people over here? Of course, some of them, they have their genesis here. The border moved. They didn't move. But then you have another set that it was like, guys, don't you realize that a lot of these immigrants are coming over here because of what capitalism has done in those countries? We can talk bauxite really in Jamaica. Yeah. You look at what.
I can write something up on that, and I will.
Yeah, so I mean, they talk about immigrants. They don't understand that there is for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. F is equal to ma as well, right? I mean, that's force equal mass times acceleration. Anyway, but they don't understand these concepts that a lot of what we're seeing is known as also blowback. They don't understand also that, well, if you're talking about high prices, if you're talking about supply chains, when you start deporting all these illegals, nobody's illegal, but when you start deporting these people, right, you're cutting yourself, because Americans no longer want to go out there in the fields and pick harvest sweet potatoes and parsley and all. They don't want to do that anymore. And after all, it's not something that they want to do. Americans don't want to do that. Other countries are sending people, or other people come to this country knowing there's work to be done, to be needed, right? And they come. As we dump these people, the prices in your store goes up because guess what? There's a lesser supply and demand. It's a concept that has nothing to do with capitalism. It has everything to do with reality. And, well, you get less supply, you get less of all these things. And people don't realize it. And why don't they realize this, Mayana and Jack? Because it's not taught in school. It's not taught how important, this really is to our society. All those companies that are buying up, the billionaires that are buying up these social media companies, look at where they're from. Look at where Musk is from. He's not from the United States, an immigrant. Of course, he came here purportedly illegally.
Very involved in our lives.
Right. Look at the founder, Peter Thiel, of PayPal, deep inside of our financial system. Not an American. Okay. Right. So we look at when you look at all these concepts, the level of not knowing that we have in this country, the level of ignorance. And guess what, guys? That's why we're here. We're here to say, let's all get smart together. And so that these guys can't pull the wool over our heads. Anyway, welcome aboard, everybody. By the way, are the phones any better today, or how are we doing? Do we know?
We are going through a different line, so it may have a little feedback, the same thing, but we think it's going to be a little bit better. So
well, great. So folks, don't forget when you're calling, and don't let the feedback or the you hearing yourself stop you from speaking. In fact, when you're speaking, so that you can speak clearly, maybe move the speaker or the headset or whatever you're using, so that you don't hear yourself, and talk, and then listen to when we respond. Also, I believe I understand that you may not be able to hear me from the phone while you're talking. We'll get all of these things straightened out. Anyway, welcome aboard from Substack. Lily, Liz Carrer, Judith, Barbara Fetante, beautiful from Austin. Kat, Cheryl Elkins, Margaret Ryan. Margaret says, good morning from Washington State. Valerie Vigna, Barbara Bernstein, Tucker, Janice Faye, welcome aboard. And then, of course, in our other chat, we've got Lisa Blair from Atlanta, Georgia, Joe from Los Angeles, California, Mos Maniac from Houston, which says, Buenos dias, everybody. We've got two major subjects to cover today. One is the farmers in Argentina, and then we always talk about what's the word? We always talk about religious fundamentalism. Well, religious fundamentalism is growing quite well here in the United States of America. So these are the subjects we're going to discuss. The telephone number, of course, is 713-526-5738. 713-526-5738. May have a bit of problems with it, but we can fight it through. Come on in, John. Uh,
6573. Hello.
yes, John, come on in.
Yeah, say that, we call it neoliberalism. It goes back to the 19th century. The economy had very little regulation, and the result, immense poverty for many, many people, wealth for people who hired in their house and paid them a pittance, and is not liberal at all. And so you have to try. People just, there's a process that goes on as economy growing. It all concentrates and will eventually control over everything. Nothing is really of value produced except to extract more out of people. Out of middle class and the work. So eventually it has to be regulated, and it has to be, bridled. They call it, we have full capitalism. Elizabeth Warren is that. Robert Ish is also explaining that also. And I think people know something's wrong, but they don't understand that. Anyway, that's all.
Thank you very much. And sorry for that problem that we are having with the phone. I know it makes it difficult for you to speak. That's why I tell anybody that's calling in, while you're talking, do not put the speaker at your phone, because you kind of hear yourself and it kind of confuses you. So please don't do that, so that we can actually get some smooth speaking from you. Thank you for that, Jack. Elizabeth Warren calls it accountable capitalism, right? I think until you remove the word capitalism for it, it cannot be accountable. That's my take. I think because we are, again, when I speak about indoctrination, because we're so indoctrinated into believing in that religion, capitalism as a religion, it holds us back from a true free system that supports us all. There's so much lying that has to go on for this economic system. We're not talking about a political system. We're talking about an economic system, economic system that pretty much rapes most. But we are so indoctrinated with this thing that so many people are scared to really talk about exactly what we need to do to make a system that really supports us all, and a system that doesn't allow a few to make billions on the backs of others, billions that are in fact unearned. You talk about it, people want to call you a communist and all these other things. Do not buy into it until we open our minds and understand that there are better ways. We will continue to try to put a lipstick on a pig. And that's why even I'm a very strong supporter of Elizabeth Warren. But the mere fact that she has to call what she believes in accountable capitalism shows you the danger of the word proper, because she still has to use it for it to get managed. You read what accountable capitalism is, and guess what? It isn't capitalism at all. All right, Jimmy, come on in. Jimmy, you're on.
Okay. I want to talk about Governor Spencer Cox of Utah. After the shooting of Charlie Kirk, he gave an excellent speech about the need for gun control, about the need for people to work together to solve our problems, how we should stop having hate for the other party. It was so impressive that they had him on 60 Minutes last night, and I would vote for the man because he's really got the solutions for a better world and a better country of people working together and to solve our problems. The other issue is about a possible government shutdown. We need to avoid that because most people, the government workers don't work. The national parks are closed, and when they finally go back to work, they give them all their back pay anyway, so we're paying them for doing nothing. So I think it's very important to avoid the government shutdown and keep our government working and solve the problems after you have these votes.
Yeah, I would hate to have a shutdown as well, Jimmy. These guys in Washington, I just find them kind of clownish that Americans don't really know what this shutdown is about. If what we got was a whole lot of, what is the word that I want to say? If Americans really knew straight up the issues behind why, and by the way, it's not Democrats that are shutting down the government, it's the unwillingness of Republicans to provide the subsidies for all Americans and mostly, again, and you're going to find them in red states, to prevent what's going to happen next month to their insurance rates from going up. That is the reason for the shutdown. And if enough Americans knew that, there would be no shutdowns because the Republicans would lose their ability, would immediately lose their ability to do so because the people would be in their skin. But again, I to many extent, I say the people marketing for the Democratic establishment somehow have not really made Americans know exactly what this shutdown is about. Anything else, Jimmy?
That's all. Just I urge people to look up 60 Minutes last night and see what Governor Spencer Cox of Utah is advocating about less guns and less hate and more working together to solve our problems.
I tell you what, one thing though, I think I love look, Spencer Cox, I think is doing the right thing. He's actually working pretty close with the governor of Colorado, Democrats, and they've been doing the tours around the country, etc., talking about working together, etc. But I think I would, I like what I saw from Spencer on 60 Minutes last night, but I would take Spencer Cox more seriously if he actually, with what he's talking about, had the nerve, including when he was doing the Charlie Kirk speech, to really rebuff the violence coming out of the president. And he refused to do that when asked. So, I mean, it is almost like he's trying to be what I call half pregnant. And as you know, you can't really be half pregnant. So while I like the facade that he's putting out there, until he goes ahead and reject what the evil within the right, which he has not done. In fact, today, one of the subjects that I'm covering is religious fundamentalism and what it's doing in the name of Jesus Christ. Until he rejects that, I mean, I don't see how people actually, listen, because they don't have I don't think until he does that, we go anywhere. Just my thought. Anything else, Jimmy?
I agree with you. We need to speak up against President Trump and his vindictive nature, how he likes to go against his enemies, the indictment of James Comey and so forth is a good example of that.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you very much for that, my brother Jimmy. You have a good one. Hey, March K, you said BS. I'm wondering what are we speaking about, March KJ? All right, okay. I want to talk about our farmers. We kind of touched on this a few times, so that it gets a little bit deeper now. And I did some research on this a couple of days ago, and I'm looking for the piece that I did. But let me just kind of tell you in short what's going on. Milei, the new right wing, or not new, but he's been there for a few years, the right wing leader of Argentina, had big support from the right here and from Trump and all these guys. And they love this guy because unlike the United States, where it's not as easy to it's to simply go to the right and say, I am going to implement all these right-wing features because they're better for the economy, etc. In a lot of these Latin American countries, because they're closer to dictatorships than we are, when you elect somebody, they can go ahead and just do as they please. And that's what Milei did in Argentina. And so he put the right-wing policies, Project 2025, on steroids in Argentina. And it destroyed the Argentinians' economy. And when I say destroyed the economy, I mean it. Argentina used to be one of the richest countries in the world, one of the richest Latin American countries in the world as well. And now they're nothing more than a poor country. And this was all done by right-wing crap, not by a social state. Have you believe this was because of a social state? No. What Milei did is what a lot of the Republicans want to do here in the United States and create something called austerity. Austerity means we reduce the people's pensions that's provided by the government. We reduce government services. We reduce all these things that the government provide. And by the way, when we talk about the government providing, remember what we're talking about. Things that are provided through taxing those who should be taxed, right? All of us, that is. And so that's what was doing. So the system completely failed. They pegged their money against the dollar. So whereas some currencies are pegged towards gold, some silver, and ours towards the faith in the United States, the Argentinian government pegged their money to the dollar. What that also means, right, is you don't have flexibility. If you don't have your money pegged to the dollar, let me just say a little bit of economy here. If you have your own currency, what's known as sovereign currency, and you do everything in your currency, if things get out of whack in your country, right, you can devalue your currency so that the stuff that you export, etc., becomes much cheaper. So if you do that relative to the dollar, a lot of your products would be sold, and your economy can get rejiggered because the exchange rate reflects, the power of your currency, etc., and you can make adjustments to your thing. Of course, imports become more expensive, but a country like Argentina that has a lot of resources, from cattle to farmland to all that good stuff, a lot of stuff would be more expensive, but a lot of stuff would be just fine as well. But they don't really the truth is they don't really believe in free enterprise. What they implemented was capitalism on steroids. And that simply is an extractive system that doesn't work. So what happened? It failed. Just like when Bush came into power, what they attempted to do failed. Just like what Reagan's austerity, etc., failed until he implemented Keynesian economics. Nobody tells you that. But this great Reagan $16 million jobs, and by the way, Clinton had more in $20 million, and he did the exact opposite of not the exact opposite. He did quite a few things differently than Reagan did. But not until Reagan implemented Keynesian economics, which what it meant is that the government is a spender of last resort. So in building the military, in not getting rid of certain forms of welfare, etc., the economic motor ran crazy, just like what Biden did with the IRA and all these other policies. The economy took off. People say, well, what about inflation? Well, Argentina would love to have the inflation under the worst part of what Biden did, but we didn't get that. But anyhow, going back to the form at hand. So Milei implemented it on steroids. And what that meant is that they needed support. They needed support. And the United States, of course, with its tariffs that's killing the farmers and all these things right now, had some cash in the bank. Of course, we owe a lot of money, but hey, that is still cash we didn't expect, right? So right then and there, guess what Brother Trump did? Because he loves Milei. Milei is his friend, right? So he decided to bail him out. Bail Argentina out. And gave Argentina $20 billion. Are there any farmers listening to me right now? Right now, we don't even have a bill. We don't even have a bill in Congress, a Congress run by the people you put there, farmers. We don't even have a bill out there that is saying, well, since we killed the farmers' soybean market, let's give them a subsidy. By the way, I don't really support that a subsidy should happen under what you guys believe in, but let's give them a subsidy so that they don't lose their farms to the corporate sector. Well, there's not even a bill out there for that. The best that we got is Donald Trump, when somebody challenged him about tariffs, came out and said, oh, we're working on something for the farmers. Well, let me tell you about the something they're working on. Let me tell you something else that's happening to you soybean farmers. When Donald Trump gave $20 billion to Argentina to bail them out, it also left open for Argentina to do what it needed to do best. Or not best, but what it also did. China went to Argentina to build ports. China went to Argentina to buy soybeans. So now we are, with our American dollars that we received from the tariff that is killing the American farmer, that money is going to Argentina to support them as China uses Argentina as its new market for soybeans. Remember, they buy, I think, 50-something% of the United States soybeans. Now, Argentina and Brazil are populating the biggest purchaser of soybeans on the planet. We are subsidizing them as our farmers' soybeans rot in the field or get thrown into the silos without anybody to buy it. And people may ask, well, why did he bail out? Why did he bail out Argentina? Knowing that Argentina is going to be selling soybeans to the Chinese, hurting our farmers. Instead of giving that $20 billion to a country that is actually harming our farmers, shouldn't we just find a way to turn that subsidies into allowing the farmers to save their lands, etc.? We didn't. But you see, I always talk to you about being a billionaire doesn't mean you have much upstairs. The people with a lot upstairs are the people I see in my chats right now. All you guys in the chat right now, the ones that aren't trying to protect these policies, that is, are smarter than any one of those billionaires out there. And I am not saying that to be nice to you. I'm saying that because in the aggregate, it is true. It doesn't take rocket science for you to understand that if you are going to implement these right-wing policies, that you will kill your economy. Doesn't take rocket science to do that. Basic Economics 101, if you really ever believed it, would tell you that if you put the money into the hands of people who would spend it, that economy would thrive because of the circulation of money. But if you put that money in the hands of people who are rich, and especially getting rich off the backs of others, there's nobody to spend that money, because the rich doesn't, giving the rich a tax break does not give him an incentive, him or her an incentive to spend anymore. They spend whatever they want. It just gives them an incentive to play more Monopoly with buying other stuff up around the world. And that's what they do. It just doesn't work. But the venture capitalists and the and those people who trade in paper, in their infinite wisdom, they decided to invest in Argentina. And those stocks were going through the basement. They were failing left and right. So if Argentina filed for bankruptcy, well, you know how countries do. All that investment by these companies, these companies that they don't build anything, they just trade paper, they just trade stocks, they just trade financial instruments, and they made a bet. Remember, I tell you, it doesn't mean that they're smart. They made a bet that austerity would bring back the Argentinians' economy. But any one of you in this chat right now that I'm looking at, you know better. Austerity by design, austerity, if you don't believe in ideology, if you just believe in math, you would understand that austerity by the mechanics is a failure. And it failed in Argentina. And those investors who believe in the crap they talk to you about, austerity and reducing budgets, those stocks were in the dumpers until, of course, their savior, Donald Trump, gave Argentina or made Argentina aware that they'll have $20 billion to recover to help their economy not fall through the basement. So, folks, understand, and I hope there are some farmers that are listening, because this isn't a offshoot or something like that. This is exactly what's being done here in America as well. This is exactly what is being done in America. When you see them cut insurance, and starting in October, remember what this shutdown is going to be about. This shutdown is about Democrats want to reinstitute subsidies for healthcare back in the system, because the big, bad, beautiful bill did not carry forward what Biden did. So therefore, these subsidies will expire. Those of you buying insurance on the exchange, you may think it only affects those people buying insurance on the Affordable Care Act exchange. It is going to be a lot deeper than that, because here's what's about to happen. Because these rates are going to go up, some people are going to have their bill go from about $7,000 a year for health insurance to $24,000 a year. I want you to get this right. Some people, because of the loss of subsidies, will have their healthcare bill, go from about $7,000 a year to $24,000 a year. If you're making $85,000, that's a number, because of the loss of subsidies. Now, what that means is that person who's going to pay $24,000 a year, they are just going to say, I can't pay $3,000 a month in healthcare. And by the way, that doesn't include the co-pays and all of that. That still is in effect. They can't afford that. And that is coming, folks. This is not coming after the 2026 election. This is coming now. In October, you'll see these bills in October. And what that means is a lot of people will say, I just can't pay that, and they will go without insurance. So the insurance companies, not getting money from the government, from the subsidies, not getting money from these people's paying premiums, they will go ahead and have to increase insurance rates, not only for the people on the exchange, but for everybody. And why? Because there's just one big pool of insurance money. Some coming from the government subsidies, some coming directly from people, individuals, and some coming from elsewhere. Look, this is one big circle, one big pool that's managed by others and profit by others, that is. And once you take that big thing out, that's what happens. And again, how many people actually know that? That is what the shutdown is going to be about. Okay, and that is going to affect our economy. And that is what as I'm watching Morning Joe, as I'm watching CBS, as I watch ABC News yesterday, nobody is informing the American people what these things are really all about. So therefore, we can take silly ideological positions. Oh, big government, small government, big, we don't want this. The farmers sealed their own demise. They sealed their own demise. Classes, the upper classes, take care of themselves. Donald Trump didn't bail out the poor in Argentina. Donald Trump bailed out the investors whose investments skyrocketed as soon as he gave Argentina, or proposed to give Argentina, the $20 billion. Folks, did you hear this on mainstream media? And by the way, there are some media that is in fact reporting this, because that's how I got it, from obscure sources who have the receipts. But they don't publicize it for the masses to understand. And that's why we're here. And that's why we do what we do. That is why we do what to do. So, Steve, I don't understand what you said. Stephen says, farmers are about to become billionaires thanks to Trump tariffs. No. They're about to lose their farms. And the agribusinesses are about to buy them up. And exactly as Trump's former agricultural secretary says, we're going to have mostly industrialized farming. So small farmers with 100 acres or 50 acres or whatever, I'm sorry you voted for your demise, and you may have a comeback, but you don't have much time. Brian, come on in, line number 1. Brian, line number 1. Come on in.
Yeah. Exactly how much did Eli Lilly invest in Houston this year?
Brian, I'm going to tell you from now, when you call into this show, don't ask me those questions. You tell me what you want to say, okay? And then we can discuss it.
Okay, it's in the billions. How many people wouldn't have a job without Eli Lilly and their investment there?
Well, actually,
dollars is being invested here in the United States from foreign countries. It's in the trillions. They're going to take the job that was overseas. They're bringing them back. What part of this don't you understand?
What part of the employment rate don't you understand? What part of the economic system don't you understand? If you take a look at all the raw numbers, they're going all in the wrong directions, and they're going in the wrong directions because Donald Trump is doing all the wrong things. If you have any belief that a foreign country is going to come to America to prop up the American worker while they put their own workers in decline, you're dreaming. You're being hoodwinked just as much as the article you sent me yesterday. You are being hoodwinked. So, I mean, look, Brian, I don't have time to discuss fallacies that you read that doesn't make any economic sense. No, it's not at all. Not at all. But thank you for calling in. Let's go to Betty. Come on in, Betty. Betty, you're on. Okay, is Betty there? I guess Betty's not there. All right, folks. Look, you can. Brian sends me some emails sometimes, and every time I look at it, I have to shake my head because it is from these. I do understand why he says the things that he says and where his mind is, and when you get information from all dubious sources that are there to prop up the Trump administration, you understand why a lot of these people are fooled. I've been to many of these right-wing rallies, etc., and I understand why they're fooled, because they are working from particular sources of information that are simply lying and all of the times called out. That's what it is. Anyway, so as it turns out, Javier Milei of Argentina got a gift from Donald Trump, and the gift from Donald Trump, while it's prepping up the U.S. investors, while it's prepping up parts of the wealthy in Argentina, will do very little for the country proper, and simply was another transfer of money from the American taxpayer directly to Argentina, and from Argentina to the American investors that invested in the failed experiment that Javier Milei attempted in Argentina. And this is what happens all the time. And until we learn this stuff and understand this stuff, we will continue to be hoodwinked, and we'll continue to have them hoodwink us as they just did our brother who called in a few minutes ago. All right, Betty, it seems like you're back again. Let's see if we can get to you, Betty. Come on in.
Okay.
Go ahead, Betty.
I want to say this about Epstein, about Einstein. He said he did not believe in God, and he didn't believe in personal prayers. And then they asked him about gravity. Why the universe did not come crashing down on us? He said God wouldn't let it. He used God's name in so many things, right or wrong. It's a part of our talk, whether we believe in God or not. But I want to say about the farmers. There's a little bit of farming in us all, but the real farmers are the gut of America. They are my idols. Love y'all.
Thank you, Betty. Love you too, girl. Let me just tell you something. And Betty's right about the farmers, right? The farmers do a yeoman's job. The farmers' work is pretty difficult. Even with the new technologies we have, that they can now, pueden cosechar su finca, they can now do their crops with nice air-conditioned equipment and all of that, but it's very hard labor, very hard work. And to see what we've done to farmers, as prices go up for products in America, the farmers are not getting a better return on their investment. In fact, they continue to work hard, pay more for supplies to grow, etc. The people that make a lot of money are the people who move the paper, that sell their corn and soybeans as commodities. They make the money as they move the paper around, and the farmer just goes ahead and does his thing. It's a modern day sharecropper, modern day indentured servant, modern day antiseptic slave. That's who we've turned our farmers into. And we have those people wearing nice suits sitting in their offices in Chicago on the commodities market, moving around corn, moving around soybeans around the world, as the farmers are the ones doing the work. That's what I talk about, the economic system, people. When you hear me talk about the economic system, that's what I'm talking about. You have those that make money all on the work of others, as the others struggle. And when it's time for the others to ask for something to give them a hand, they say no, or they do what Trump has done. Send it all over to Argentina. Augie, come on in line one.
All right. Well, thanks, Egberto. Can't hear you, but I was wondering about the military. Will they get paid when the government shut down?
Oh, yeah.
They were talking about the government shutdown, and we're still at war with North Vietnam. And in our squadron, we're talking about maybe we should go on strike. We're talking about it then. And there's those people on Social Security. Will they begin their Social Security checks that they depend on to live?
Yeah, all of that will be paid. All of those kinds of things will be paid. The government workers will be laid off. And in Trump's parlance, they're going to be fired. We'll see what happens. Because, again, you can play bully for just so far. And after a while, it starts to cave in. The economy starts to give out. And that's what's starting to happen. So we'll see what happens, Augie.
Yeah. And you were talking about venture capitalists. Well, back in the 1900s, the venture capitalists were called robber barons.
Yes.
So now we got robber barons here again, but with a different name. But thanks for informing everybody what's going on, Egberto.
Thank you, my brother. Appreciate you, Augie. You have a wonderful rest of your day. Folks, we only have a few minutes to talk about the fundamentalism, right? But I want, as you hear what's going to happen with if it shuts down, and it looks like it's likely to shut down on Tuesday. Remember what it's really all about. Remember, there's one team that is fighting to try to get you health insurance. And there's another team that constantly says, we can take care of that later. We can take care of that later. Well, the insurance rates come out next month. These rates will hit next month. You have to sign up next month on the ACA, and you have to sign up for your Medigap next month. And a lot of times I understand why they don't want to sign up for these things, because I think they also figure that Medigap prices may kind of go up such a manner that everybody decides that maybe we should just go ahead and jump into Medicare Advantage. Well, let me tell you, this is another anecdotal story. My wife went to church yesterday, and one of her friends is on Medicare. Well, she thought she was on Medicare, and found out she was on one of the reasons she can't get all these services that she wants, that she needs for her health care, is because they're not approving it, etc. And what it turned out that she thought she had Medicare, but she has Medicare Advantage. And she's really trying to move back to Medicare, but so far it has turned out to be impossible. And unfortunately, I had to tell my wife it's unlikely that she will be able to move back and afford it, because since she let 4 years pass and used Medicare Advantage, she will not be able to get Medigap at a price she can afford, because Medigap is frozen in at the time you turn 64. And I think there are some other exceptions that I don't quite know right now, but I'll know it the next time I go talk Medicare at the next conference. But anyhow, what's going on now and what's being done to the American people to extract the next dollar is pitiful. And what's even more pitiful is those of us that are trying to inform folks about what's going on have to listen to defenders of a system that is harming many of us. We have to get calls like our good friend Brian, who really honestly thinks he's doing the right thing by the American folks, but it's just prolonging our malaise. Bobby, come on in, line one. Please remember that come on in, Bobby, line one.
Good morning. How are you doing, Egberto?
I'm doing fine. Talk to me, Bobby.
First of all, I just wanted to commend you for always having Brian on. I know that we don't all agree with what he's saying, but I do commend you for always letting him speak. He did mention that, the other day that we should have no deficit. I like that. He has said one thing that I like. My other comment was that every year that they talk about shutting down the government, it always reminds me of, right before the 9/11, where the Rumsfeld was talking about $2 trillion in the unaccounted Department of Defense spending. And that, in my opinion, was a very conservative number. And then I start to think, where are all these missing trillions of dollars going? Where's the equipment, or what did they buy with it? They can't tell us. They have excess money sitting there. They could run everything smoothly. But, we're so out of control with what is really happening in the government. Like last year I asked you, who is the people that tell the president which bases he's allowed to go to when he's supposed to go? He's supposed to be the commander-in-chief of the military. But to me, it just shows a true loss of control of our government. And, we'll sit here and shut down our parks and everything else. Meanwhile, the Department of Defense will be sitting there with trillions of dollars doing whatever they do with it.
I'm glad you said that, Bobby, because you talk about the wasteful $1 trillion and more in the Defense Department. I mean, you take a look at what we pay for every time you see Israel launches a missile, right? That is millions of dollars out of the American budget, but it stays in America. It's millions of dollars out of the American coffers, but it goes into the coffers of these rich people who run all these defense contractors. You see, they're making a killing. They support it because they're making a killing. And a lot of this money is outside of the purview of all of us. And we continue to support it because of our ignorance. And what I'm hoping that with commentary like yours, with a lot of smart commentary like we have in the chats right now, that as more people find this out and tell their brothers, your sisters, your neighbors, your aunties, and everybody else, that eventually we'll see the light before it's too late. But a doctor, I forgot his name, astrophysicist, came out and said, we are following the same path that Baghdad has followed. Doesn't happen quickly. You just go into a steady decline. And by the time you find out that you're down in the valley, it is too late. Thank you very much for your call, Bobby. All right. Let's go ahead and I pass it on to the studio.
Yeah, it's really glad to learn about Argentina. I had no idea about any of that. It's just, it boggles the mind. There's always money, but it's never spent on healthcare or anything. And that's where it goes. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right, Mayana? A lot of people don't. I heard you, Jack. A lot of people, that's the problem why we vote. People blame the voters. Yeah, thank you. People blame the voters, but I tell you what, it's not the voter. It is our information system. It is our media. Anyway, folks, let me tell you guys, I thank you for being here. Love you all. Please remember the rest of the program is at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. You can write me directly at kpft@politicsdoneright.com. kpft@politicsdoneright.com. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto